Hello, welcome to Saturday Sport. Cricket and golf are major focus today, and there's already been some Aussie pain in the Tri-Nations rugby this morning. News of that ahead. Also looking ahead to a big night for Amir Khan in Manchester. Our guests this morning are Richard Lenton from Golf Punk magazine. He's with us in the studio. We'll be chatting to Richard shortly. And we're joined live from Lord's shortly by the editor of the Wisden cricketer, John Stern. So we'll chat to John very shortly. Before that, a quick update on the latest score. It is, of course, day 3 of the second Ashes test, England against Australia at Lord's. Australia resumed on 156 for 8, needing another 70 runs to avoid the follow-on, and they're doing quite well. 190 for 8, the men at the crease, Nathan Horrocks and Peter Siddle, both 20 without loss. They both added 17 runs to their overnight scores. Let's speak to John Stern then, editor of the Wisden cricketer, who's down watching the cricket at Lord's. Aussies aren't doing too badly this morning, it seems, John.
No, they made a perfectly decent start. Perhaps it's classic English optimism. We got a bit ahead of ourselves talking about the follow-on, and the Aussies are perhaps thinking that they might save the follow-on quite comfortably.
How crucial is the follow-on?
Well, I mean, you can look at it a number of ways. If Australia do save the follow-on and say make 230 or so, then the decision's taken obviously out of Andrew Strauss's hands, and England just need to go out there and bat and get a decent lead and then stick the Aussies back in again. So I mean, there's a number of different ways to win the Test match. I think in an ideal world, Australia would be bowled out cheaply, made to follow on again, and hopefully England would roll them cheaply a second time around again.
Has it been a surprise to you, the number of wickets that have fallen so early?
Well, I think the conditions yesterday for England's bowlers were excellent. James Anderson made the ball swing, and the conditions were much better for England to bowl yesterday than they were for Australia to bowl on day one.
And what would have been the orders today? Obviously, there's 2 wickets still to go. What would the captain Strauss have instructed his bowlers this morning?
Well, it'd be more of the same. Keep it tight, and hopefully the ball will swing. The weather's a little bit more pleasant, a bit sunnier today, perhaps almost a little bit cooler as well. So that may not help the ball to swing, and that may inform the decision that Andrew Strauss makes if Australia fail to reach that follow-on target.
James Anderson, the pick of the England bowlers yesterday, we're seeing all the wickets as we're chatting here. Stuart Broad got a couple as well. Just one for Andrew Flintoff, though. Was he a better bowler than that, just 1 wicket yesterday?
Yes, I think that's really the story of his Test match career. His record is actually quite moderate to look at in statistical terms, but he's always been a guy who gets big wickets, gets important players out, and that's really his legacy and why he's so crucial to this team.
In that case, it's even more sad to hear that he's not going to be playing Test cricket after this Ashes series.
Well, that's absolutely right, but clearly his injury record has been so appalling that England have had to make do without him on a number of occasions, and indeed their recent record without him is better than with him. So it is sad, but England will just have to move on and make do.
Can you explain what difference there's been in England over the last week? They were pretty dire in certain places against Australia in the first Test, and they've turned it around remarkably, it seems. Why?
Well, I think there were a lot of nerves at Cardiff, probably on both sides, but particularly on the England side, and a lot of the players who hadn't played in a home Ashes series before. And I think at Lord's, they felt perhaps inspired by the fact that they got away with that draw in Cardiff. And also, from a bowling point of view, they have definitely had the best of the conditions. It was a good day to bat on day 1. The pitch was easy-paced. There was very little swing. And on day 2, the pitch has quickened up, and it was swinging for the likes of James Anderson, Graham Onion, Stuart Broad. So, it's been as much conditions, but I think also the England bowlers have sort of eased into the series now, and they're feeling a lot more confident.
How's this Test match going to end up then?
Well, it looks like England should win this Test match, but I think what you've got to consider is that before England beat the West Indies here earlier this summer, there'd been 6 consecutive drawn Test matches at Lord's, and the fact is that the pitch is very, very good. It doesn't deteriorate, and I think it will still be a big take a big effort for England to win this game. But I think really, from the position they're in now, you've got to expect them to win at some point.
And if they do, how strong a position will that put them in to win the series?
I think it puts them in an excellent position, because they haven't beaten Australia here in a Test match since 1934. So they would lay that one to rest, and also 1 up with 3 to play. I think they'd have proper momentum, and you'd sense the country really getting behind England and getting into this Ashes series.
It's a huge weekend of sport. With me in the studio, we've got Richard Lenton here, who's a golf journalist. We're going to be speaking to him about the Open, of course, up in Scotland. Let's chat about the scheduling, though, of this Test match. Do you agree that it should clash with such a major sporting event in this country as the Open, and could anything have been done about that? John, sorry, that was a question to you. I do apologise.
I beg your pardon. Well, it's a very unfortunate scheduling, because certainly looking at it from a cricket perspective, if this Test match was not going as planned, wasn't as exciting as it was, then you'd find sort of the newspapers and the general media view they'd lose interest in the Ashes and be concentrating on the Open golf. I think the golf authorities have said, well, we have the Open this time every year. What are the cricket authorities doing, scheduling such a big match clashing with the Open? And I tend to agree with that. The international cricket schedule, the English cricket schedule, is so crowded these days that you never know from one year to the next when particular games are going to take place. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge golf fan myself, but I'd certainly rather not have 2 major sporting events taking place at the same time.
We'll get Richard's view on that. Well, we're just trying to find out why there's been a massive cheer behind you. Just waiting for a confirmation that there has been a wicket. We were saying earlier that Australia resumed on 156 for 8, and Nathan Horrocks, John, has just gone. So that means 1 more wicket needed for England to bowl Australia out. We'll keep you bang up to date with the latest score from Lords. And John, we'll let you go very shortly, because I know you want to get back and watch the cricket. But let's talk to Richard here in the studio about that comment on the scheduling. Yeah. The Open golf is why you're here to talk to us. What's your feeling on the Lord's Test being where it is?
Well, I also work for a football magazine now, so this might sound a little bit traitorous, but for me, the biggest 2 sporting events are the Open Championship and the Ashes cricket. And I know Sky Plus is a magnificent invention, but once you've watched the Ashes all day, then you want to watch the Open golf. Are there enough hours in the day when you've got a very demanding girlfriend, Dan? It's difficult.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, sadly. John, we'll let you go and hopefully see that final Australia wicket go down, so England can put themselves in a very strong position to win this Test match. Thanks so much indeed for your time. OK, well, we'll speak, as I said, a little bit more later on about the golf. Australia and England, of course, doing battle at Lords in that second Test, and we'll keep you bang up to date. But Nathan Horrocks, the latest wicket to fall, so Australia are 9 men down. Now, this is Sky News on our website, skynews.com. Our Henry celebrating the life of the humble airman who became the world's oldest man. And coming up on Saturday Sport, and Tom Watson continue to roll back the years at the Open Championship, and the All Blacks after a winning start in this year's Tri-Nations.
After 12 days alone in the bush, even his family had given up hope. Somehow he lived to tell his tale. Hear Jamie Neal's incredible story. Bush Survivor, Sunday at 8:30 p.m. on Sky News.
Hi there, welcome back to Saturday Sport. If you were with us just before the break, you would have heard the wicket fall of that man there, Nathan Horrocks, who was doing well alongside Peter Siddle. Graham Onions taking the wicket. Fantastic catch by Paul Collingwood, and that means that Australia currently are 196 for 9, and they're trying to avoid the follow-on, of course. It's day 3 of the second Test against England. England in a very strong position. We'll keep our eye on that one. Turning our focus to the Open Championship in a moment. First, the other sports headlines this morning. New Zealand kicked off this season's Tri-Nations with victory of Australia in Auckland. The holders won 22-16 at Eden Park. Captain Richie McCaw got their only try. Stephen Donald kicked the rest of the points. New Zealand now travel to South Africa for 2 tests against the world champions. The first is next Saturday in Bloemfontein. Mark Cavendish lost the green jersey to Thor Hushovd at the Tour de France and is down to second in the points competition.